When I went vegetarian 22 years ago, it was like the dark ages. I mean, it was, I'm from Canada, and up in Canada, it was really, really difficult. I mean, you couldn't get tofu in the grocery stores, and, you know, a vegetarian meal was like meatballs and spaghetti. Please hold the meatballs. You know, like that was a vegetarian meal 22 years ago. And now, you know, the vegetarian movement has exploded. And I'd love to hear from the panelists, why has there been this rejuvenation, recarnation, explosion of the veggie, plant-based diet?
So I think one big aspect of that can be seen just by the fact that we're having this panel here. For the first probably 10 years I was involved in vegetarian activism, there was a big effort from animal protectionists to get the environmental movement to embrace plant-based eating, and over the course of 20 years it started to really take hold, and now it's a big part of the environmental movement as well. We've seen most of our work, like I mentioned, is done on college campuses. We go to 700 to 800 schools every semester, and we give our booklets to over 600,000 students each semester. And we've seen a steady increase over the past 18 years towards more students on college campuses embracing plant-based eating. A recent survey found that 30% of students said it was very important to them to have vegetarian food on campus, which was up from 25% 5 years earlier. And in 2010, Bon Appetit found that the number of college vegetarians was now 12%, up from 8% in 2005.
I'll be talking about the non-GMO answers to the same questions, and non-GMO is very much on the rise. I think the primary reason is concern about the health dangers. There's more and more evidence that it's actually quite dangerous and is probably contributing to a significant increase in serious diseases in the United States. On top of that, there was fairly high media coverage last year regarding genetically engineered salmon, which is threatening, genetically engineered sugar beets and alfalfa, and we see the rise of what's called the Non-GMO Project, which is a third-party verified system for making non-GMO claims, and they've just hit $1 billion worth of sales of products that are now third-party verified to be non-GMO. This means that the natural and organic food industry is now more empowered and more bold in their discussion about GMOs because they now know that their house is in order and they can go against GMOs because they realize they've done all the vetting and they have verified non-GM products to sell.
What is causing the vegetarian renaissance? There's an old saying, you can't keep a hat pin. Anybody remember what hat pins look like? They're long pins, but you can't keep a hat pin in a cloth bag for very long. The point comes out. And same thing with the truth of a plant-based diet. From the medical nutritional side, we can trace the landmark studies that have appeared over the last 20 years, from Dean Ornish reversing heart disease, the plant-based diets, to Colin Campbell's China study called Esselstyn's coronary artery disease reversal. There's no end of medical proof now. It's becoming overwhelming. If you go to PubMed and just search on vegan or vegetarian, the screen fills up with studies. But also, the sleeping giant has awoken through the internet, and the young people, they're going to live forever. Health doesn't matter to them, but they sure care about the environment, and they care about the animals, and they're talking about it. And we all meet in the same place. It still comes down to eating plants that don't run away from you when you think about having them for lunch. And for that reason, I'm hopeful, if we've got enough time on this planet, that we'll come to our senses and leave the animals alone so they can live their own lives.
Yeah, as Dr. Clapper alluded to, the science is there and it's been there for a while. So what's causing suddenly this mainstream awareness? First of all, there's a lot more media coverage than there ever has been. At Veg News, our job is to keep our finger on the pulse of what is being said about veganism and a plant-based diet around the world. You would not believe the attention it's getting in not just alternative media, but mainstream media every single day. New York Times, CNN, and down. So that's really exciting. I think the veil has lifted on factory farms. I think people want to know where their food comes from. We're in a health crisis, and we're at that nexus of people wanting information and media willing to provide it, and we've never really been quite at that point. I also think the green movement, the environmental movement, has really fueled the vegan movement because there's such a connection. So this is a great question, and I could talk for a long time on this, but it really is an exciting time.
From my perspective, I think the whole, if there is an increase in folks heading towards plant-based diets, it's from what I can see, a lot of it comes from increased education and sort of an offshoot of the whole sustainable local food movement. There's more farmers markets, there's more interest in just vegetables on their own, which is, you go to a farmer's market, what's there? It's all plant-based foods, which is a natural. And then I do cooking classes where I've talked to folks that start out by just getting interested in food and where their food comes from, and it kind of progresses from there, and getting, because the information is out there and it's pretty accessible, but getting people jazzed about vegetables and jazzed about cooking, consuming them, and all the variety that is there, that, to me, that's been a real factor in getting people to transition into more of a plant-based diet.
Awesome.